evening, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome to Friendship West Baptist Church. Now, on behalf of our senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes III, we want to again welcome you for coming out on tonight for an important conversation and topic for tonight. I am Reverend Danielle Ayers, and I serve as the pastor of justice here at Friendship West Baptist Church. And so we have invited folks to come out because obviously this $1.25 billion bond represents an opportunity to make a significant investment in our city. And so we just wanted folks to be able to come out tonight for two reasons. Number one, to understand how bonds work. And then number two, specifically what this bond is and the 10 propositions. So we're clear about when you vote yes to no, what does that mean? And give folks an opportunity to engage and have conversations with folks who can answer their questions in this room. And I also want to make sure that, that we do have voting guides on both sides. Some of you probably already have them. You can grab them on your way out. If you're not in the city of Dallas, we also have the Northern Dallas Voters Guide, Eastern Dallas County, as well as Southern Dallas County election guides as well, if Dallas is not your place of residence. So super excited. I want to thank Sean Williams for reaching out and putting this together because it's so important to do and it's very helpful to be able to have community partners to bring this all together. And so before I introduce our two main speakers, I want to acknowledge other folks who are not on the panel, but they will be here to answer questions as we get to the Q&A session. So they're going to be to my right, and as I call your name, you can just wave at the folks so they can see who you are. We have Mr. Billy Lane, Inner City Community Development Corporation, Bob Mung, former president, UNT Dallas, Tony Moore, Trinity Park Conservatory, and Ashel Morgan, Dallas Museum of Arts. And we have Dr. David Woody III, President and CEO of the Bridge Homeless Recovery Center. And then we have our Mayor Pro Tem, our City Councilman, Tanel Atkins, and also, of course, Friendship West sits in his district. So we're happy to have him on tonight to have a conversation, as well as Randall Bryant, who's the Vice Chair of the Bond Task Force. So how we want to kick it off on tonight is to give at least 15 minutes for each you, Mayor Pro Tem Atkins, and for you, Mr. Bryant, too. I think I want to start with you first. If you can just talk to us about, in general, yes, with Randall, yes, thank you. One, just in general, how bonds work, why they're important, and then Mayor Pro Tem Atkins, I'm going to ask you to talk about this specific bond, how we got here on tonight, and then we're going to walk through the propositions and talk about what it means to vote for and against, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So I'll come back after Mayor Pro Tem Atkins has his comments.
Well, thank you, Reverend Ayers. Good evening, everyone. It's kind of hard to pan this entire room like this, so I'm going to try my best to engage with everyone here. Again, my name is Randall Bryant. I serve as the Vice Chair for our Bond Task Force. We also want to thank Dr. Haynes and Friendship West Baptist Church for hosting us this evening. And so part of my role tonight is to explain how bonds work, how our bond task force worked, and how we got into a position where it got voted in support to the council, and then what they've done since then to get us here to this point. And so just to kind of back up and explain bonds as a whole, because at the end of the day, regardless of how bonds work, $1.25 billion is a lot of money, however that works. And so bonds are used as a long-term instrument, financing instrument. And so typical to like if you buy a house, you have to have a long-term project that supports the debt. And so they're very different from how we typically do our annual budget here in the city of Dallas. That we talk about a lot in August, and a lot of programs and projects that we fund through our general fund, they don't qualify for bond debt because they don't have that long-term asset associated with it. So it has to have at least a 20-year life expectancy to qualify for bond debt. And so that's very important when we look at the differences between what our needs are as a community, the 14 some odd billion dollars worth of infrastructure needs we have towards our city, and then what actually instruments can we use that qualify to fix those things. And so that specifically is how bonds work. And so the process that we went through was, just again, let's go back to the illustration of buying a house. And so we went and looked at how much of a house can we afford. I believe somewhere on here it says that your taxes will not raise in support of this bond. We know that because we're not going over a dollar amount that our current tax rate will not support, right? So just again, as if you bought a house, they will say you can, afford this without putting yourself in any financial jeopardies. We've done the exact same thing. So the first number that we looked at was $1 billion. This is on the task force level. The bond task force, we met for about 7 months. It was 90 members from the community in all. There was one main task force, which is the one that I vice chair, and then we had 5 subcommittees. There are some individuals that are here tonight that served on the various subcommittees. All the subcommittees were these various 10 propositions broken out over the 5 different subcommittees. And so the subcommittees met for a series of months, went through different projects, hosted town hall meetings, hosted community meetings, got feedback from the community, and then went through a series of dwindling down project lists through a needs inventory list of, again, that was over $14 billion. And from that point, the subcommittee sent their recommendations to our bond task force, and then we went through a process of elimination to get it down to about $1 billion. Then they said we could, extend our budget a little bit more, about to $1.1 billion, and that was our final recommendation. And then it got sent to the council where they extended the budget again to about $1.25 billion, which is what you see here today. And so that was the process. It had a lot of community involvement from, number one, just the individuals that were a part of the process, the 90 individuals, and then town hall meetings. I think we had 2 in almost each district at the beginning of the project listing and towards the end of it, as well as additional other individual town hall meetings and community meetings that were coordinated through the council district. So that's how we got here, and I'll pass it along to Councilman Atkins and ask any other questions about the process of how it got here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. First, Ms. Gill-Amicon, is blessed to be here today, and you think about a bond package, and you think about every 5 years the bond come around, but the task force did a great job. I mean, they did a great job to come up with the 10 proposition. We have a choice, to do this. The point is, there should be 1.1 billion, it should be 1.25 billion. What should it be? But the key is to the whole subject matter is the policy makers of the council members. You have 14 council members now. And they said, what do you really want? Do you want to do street? Do you want to do parks? Do you want to do library? Do you want to do cultural arts? So there's a big debate. When you had 14 people in the room plus America, 15 people in the room, and everybody want their own flavor ice cream. And somebody want chocolate, somebody want vanilla. But we could not come with a conclusion what we really want. The first thing we do know is that Proposition 1A, streets. And for many, many years, you go all the way back to 2006 when Tom left Worcester, the street was in chaos. People, driving to work, you hit a bump hole, you blow your tire up, and guess what? You call the city down, you go to risk management, and guess what? You don't get paid. Here you have thousands of dollars because of a pothole. And we thought about that. We said, hey, what should be the number one priority? That was infrastructure, the streets, because people got to go to work every day. They got to go back and forth for work. If they lose a problem with their car, a bar ditch, accident, flat tire, whatever, that costs them money. So we ended up putting $5.21 million into the street. It's been back and forth. But one thing we did do, we did the discretionary fund. In the last bond package, we had a $10 million for every councilman to choose where they want to put that money in. I tried to make sure every councilman get $10 million, but we went back and forth, so every councilman got $5 million. And that $5 million really helped the council members and said, I do have an input. I got to stay into this bond package. If I want to put money in transportation, I want to put money in parks, I can put money somewhere that would benefit, listen to my resident and my citizens say, what can I add money to? So we talked about streets. We also went to B, parks and trail. Now people say, why do you put so much money in parks and trail, 345? And I go back during the pandemic. We went crazy. We would be crazy, completely crazy, if we didn't have our parks and trail to to vent, to take our kids to somewhere to vent, which is free, free of charge, didn't cost us any money. So we started looking at that. Parks and trails is very important to a resident. You walk out your door, go to the park, take your kid with no cost. But that's helped. But if you realize trails, the older you get, you want to walk, you want to have green space, you want to do all the good things to do that. I think that's quality of life. That things what people really want to see in today's society. Because number one, it's a cheap expense. It's a cheap venue. But also it's safe, it's quality, it's green space. And that's what we saw there with Parks and Trail. Then talk about flood neighborhood. You look at Whitewater Lake. Whitewater Lake is a great lake, but one thing you see, everybody uses Whitewater Lake. But it's still in the city of Dallas. It needs to be dredged. And the point, if you don't dredge that lake would not become a beautiful lake. So therefore, we're doing all the riddling there. We had to do that. So we look at that, say, hey, let's look at the Whitewater Lake, look at the flood control. Now, you remember the flood control way back at about 7 to 10 years ago, down there at Baylor Hospital, the big flood. All the hospital flood. You went down to Houston, Fifth Ward, the Allison Hospital, everything flooded. We got to have flood control. Without flood, you see this rain we just had last week. You see how bad it was. Water could not run out fast. So that 4.1 inches of rain. We had to protect flood control. You got to do that because that's safety. Upgrading our public library. Yeah, library is something that we got to do. So we did look at our library. In District 8, unfortunately, we had three great libraries here in District 8. So that is something that the kids use. Invest in art. If you don't invest in art, you're not investing in the city of Dallas. We learned that a long time ago. When we didn't have our art, the Marison, all the big art theaters that we had downtown, the Majestic stuff right there. Because one thing, we had major corporations would come to the city of Dallas. What do you want to do? You said, I want to go to art, I want to go to the play. Go to the play, but that accrued economic impact. Over $1 billion come from arts. Believe it or not, it generates income, economic development, it generates jobs, it generates all the stuff that the quality of life, it generates that. So that's why we have to put back in arts. You look at to make the city of Dallas safe. A whole lot of people say, this police training facility. Why are we doing a police training facility? I got Bob Munder at UNT Dallas. We do it for one reason: safety, public safety. If you look at the safety of our public police where they train at, you go to their facility, look at the video, they're trying to you think they're in a third world war. It's so bad. It's ridiculous for the handle police to train. But they're not training our police, they're training the international police, they're training everything. It also helps schools. It helps UNT Dallas, it helps Paul Quinn College, it helps Cedar Valley, it helps Barack Obama, it helps Catholic, it helps all these schools to have a career, to create job opportunity, and also create safety. And you say, why do we do that at UNT Dallas? But also, you look at many years ago, we had 2 police stations, we had Southeast and South Central. We had more crime in South Central than we could not have that. And we built South Central Police Station to make sure we had a public safety. So just imagine you got a training facility, not training the officer, but training international. It's not something that your property value will go down. I think your property value will go up because you'll be in a safe neighborhood. You look at economic development and housing, they go together. A whole lot of people said, why did you not put hundreds of $1 million into housing versus economic development? Well, that's a legal question. We could not do it that way. Because we got to mix the housing with economic development. The housing needs infrastructure. You got to have infrastructure. That's economic development. So therefore, if you build houses, you got to lack the infrastructure. And that's why the southern part of Dallas is not developing because of lack of infrastructure. You look at UNT Dallas, lack of infrastructure. It took almost 16 years to get sewage in the southern part of Dallas. Over 54 different unserved areas is lack of sewage or infrastructure. Because this is the young part of Dallas that we didn't put sewage and wastewater. And so to build houses, what you got to have? Infrastructure. If you don't have infrastructure, you're not going to build because the value of it probably too much. Homeless. talk about homeless. You know, and this is passion to me more than anybody in all these problems in homeless. Without homeless, where are you? I grew up in a project. I can talk about it. I lived it. My mom lived it. She raised 5 boys and 1 girl. And she was a cook. And we didn't have homeless. We had hobos and tramp. That's what we had. And we had people look like me out on the street. I take offense that I try to help them. Because what my mom did and learned to me is that when someone's on the street, she went and got their person brought in our house. And we stuck on the floor, or we ate last, to provide a roof over their house, to make sure they were safe. And that's something that we do not do now. We need to do that. We can't depend on the church. We can't depend on each other. You got to do it your own self. And that's why homeless is the biggest responsibility, because most of the homeless people out there look like me. Look like the people in this room today. And we shy away from it. And that's why we got to take care of home. If we don't take care of home, who's going to take care of it? So that's why I'm very, very passionate about that. And our other council are passionate about that. They some of them take their discretionary money, put it in the homeless, and that's what we have to do, because you cannot live without it, because most people suffer, they send it to Dallas because we're doing, take care of God's work. Upgrading technology. That's one good thing. You know, technology is a big thing in the city of Dallas. You know, you look at your cell phone, you look, something go wrong, internet, you know, you get hacked or whatever. Everything changing constantly. So we got to have that. You know, we got hacked, the city of Dallas got hacked, Fort Worth got hacked, the Dallas County got hacked, everybody get hacked. So therefore, you got to put money in there to protect that. So, you know, overall, this bond package is your bond package. It don't cost you no new taxes. But something you lack, something you don't lack. And we're here to answer any question to make sure that you understand what this bond for. We do it every 5 years. And sometimes you get in there, sometimes you don't get in there. And especially your streets, your parks, you want to know, it's a long list. You go to the website, and you can look at it, you go to your council member, and they can tell you what they put in your district. And with that, Dr. Danielle will wrap it up and open up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Garner and Mayor Pro Tem. That was very helpful and useful information. And so we want to open it up now to ask all your questions. So for us, at least at Friendship West, we want to make sure that we don't just vote, but that we vote intelligently. We have information. So you have to understand the issues, so not just push buttons, right? So we want to make sure we have the opportunity to ask any questions you have. There are 10 propositions, and it's a lot of money and a significant investment. So let's go ahead, and if I can have Sean and Shamanji, if you, I don't mind, help with the mics on each side of the choir room. So let's just go at it. Questions, and not only for Dr. Brian and Mayor Pro Tem, we have the Dr. Brian. There you go. I'm speaking it to you. So let's do that. Let's just have a community conversation about these 10 important propositions that people started voting on today. And we want to make sure Councilman Grayson just walked in. He sure did. Hello there.
How you doing?
Good. Thank you for being here. So let's just have a talk. Let's talk about it. No question is off limits or too small. Let's go.
So my question is, so each one of the propositions will be on the ballot separately, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and all 10 will be available to all Dallas County residents, is that correct?
The city of Dallas.
City of Dallas.
Just the city of Dallas.
City, okay, that's what I wanted.
And just want to make one clarification on there. It says for or against. So I know we've been saying yes, but the actual language on the ballot says for or against.
Smart people.
For Proposition F, why exactly would people of color be interested in giving the police $90 million more when we know traditionally safety is not about policing, it's about poverty? So when you ask for $90 million more, or the suggestion is to give the police $90 million to train the police, it seems to me that would be a symptom of the problem, not necessarily address the problem. Why would we be interested in that?
We're not asking the voters to give them $90 million. We asked the voters to pay for $50 million in this election. I went as a chair of the legislature. I went to Austin, Texas, and the state gave us $20 million to do that. We also have a foundation, the Carew Foundation, the Commonwealth Foundation, they give another $10 million, so we're 80. To build this facility, it costs roughly about $140 million. And by the time we finish the facility, it'll be about roughly about $340 million. It's not about a color, it's about safety. How are you trying to make sure your neighborhood is safe? Okay, number one. Before I opened the statement earlier, I said you had Southeast and Southwest. We didn't have South Central. Guess what happened? The highest crime we ever had was South Central. You know, and we had to bring South Central in there. When we brought South Central there, crime still high there. Now, we got UNT Dallas. You got a university, the fastest growing university in the country, the lowest for student rate in the country. And we got Bob Munn there. And so I only asked Bob Munn to come forward and give Bob Munn the mic because, number one, this question had to be asking him on a university campus, and you want to put a training facility on a university where kids go there and study and learn and try to find out what they can do and make sure their residents are safe and the value will go up, do the property value go up. Those are things with economic that we are looking at. Do your value go up? We got safety. Do it go up? Do it go down? Do the property value. Right now at UNT Dallas, there is no house has been built. Nothing been built. It's a prime property to be built in that community. But we got to build, I said earlier, no infrastructure. In that area, people still on sewage. In the 21st century, still on sewage. Over 500 acres of land, separate land. You know, but the point is, there is an issue we got there, Bob. We want to kind of try and get right.
My question wasn't answered.
And I do want to say this too. I want to say this too.
Right.
Of the 90 million, 50 million is for the training center, and of the 40 million also in public safety. That does include fire stations. There'll be new fire stations. There'll be upgrades, HVAC for fire station and police. So 50 million is for training center, and the other 40 million is public safety funds, but not all police.
No, I heard your question, and it's a fair question. First of all, the way we look at it is if you believe that you can't change the way police are trained in this country, then you should vote against this. Our belief is that police can be trained in a different way. And by having the academy on a university campus, instead of having police officers train police officers in the academy, what I believe the city really wants now, and we certainly want it at UNT Dallas, is that subject matter experts teach police officers, faculty members, mental health experts, because a lot of bad policing in this country has beginnings in mental health. They're going through something. When they do something wrong, it's usually because they're suffering from some issue. So the idea is to inculcate into that training mental health training, self-care techniques, lots of that's one thing that I know will happen. Let me also give you an example of Councilman Atkins talked about South Central. A few years ago, and this is where policy and good training can change behavior. So South Central was the #1 place of all the substations in the city for behavioral calls. And what was happening was a patrol officer would go out to a call, and let's just assume for a second that it's not violent. The person forgot to take their medicine. They're acting out. Their own family members are a little scared. And so the police department and the fire department and social workers at Parkland got together, and they said there's got to be a different way to handle these calls, because in Dallas County, unfortunately, if an officer takes somebody in, even though they haven't really committed a crime, they take them to county jail. That's just wrong. But that's the largest receptacle of mental health help in Dallas County. What they did differently right over here was send a paramedic, a trained social worker, and a police officer on every call, behavioral call. And guess what started to happen? When the police officer gets there, and this is based on surveys of citizens, what do you want? Well, if there's no violence, we'd like the police officer to step aside and let the paramedic and the social worker take care of it. And that's really what happened. And so instead of taking the vast majority of those folks to county jail, they started getting them private help. So that's an example of where approaching police training in a different way can make a difference. So that's one thing. Another thing is that Dallas is not that different from most other big cities. They go all over the country, sometimes all over the world, to recruit police officers. Our belief at UNT Dallas is that we should grow our own. We should, right over here at Carter High School, they have a criminal justice pathway. And we went to the city, and we went to the police department, and we went to the community college, and we made a pitch for 2 more of those. That was in 2018. They're open now. One is at Sunset, one is at Brigham, so we have 3. At the same time, once a year, there are young people all over Southern Dallas and Southern Dallas County who want to be police officers. And so we have an expo where we introduce that we bring about 1,000 students to campus, we feed them, and we introduce them to everything from FBI agents to police, sheriffs, and that sort of, so they can have half a day just to talking about these careers. So we know young people are interested in these careers. So one of the things we want to do is grow our own locally instead of bringing, and I'm not criticizing, but, okay, I'm sorry. Does that help answer? I'm just saying, subject matter experts teaching cops, I think, is the way to go. And it's different from the way it's done most places. Thanks for the question.
I'm a retired social worker recently from the city of Dallas. And I'm looking at the propositions, and the 2 that really concern me are the affordable housing options. And there's the vernacular smart affordable. I'm kind of wondering what that means. And solutions on homelessness. Because I'm a worker who has placed people who have been on the street for years and tried to hopefully believe that they could stay in a place of safety and a place called home. For some, it didn't work because of mental illness and drug and alcohol abuse. So I want to know what difference is the smart affordable housing options and the solutions in homelessness, what's going to be different this time? Because I've seen a lot of money that has been wasted because we didn't vet the persons that really wanted to stay into a place of safety.
I'll just chime in quickly, and then Billy might want to add, because I know Billy was one of the voices that led this effort very strongly. But from the bond task force position, specifically as it relates to these 2 options, or these 2 props, we have never, as a city, invested in housing historically. And so, whereas you saw Austin and other cities put hundreds of millions of dollars through a bond proposition for housing, with the fact that we've never done it before, we don't have the department truly set up to take in the funds and do what you just said, expend the funds properly, right? Because voting for them and allocate or receiving them is one thing, but then properly appropriating them is more important, right? And so that's why it's so, in an essence, small, because it gives us an opportunity to figure out how to expend them properly. And then, as the councilman said, going forward, we are committed to doing bonds every 5 years. We haven't had a bond in, I think, 6 years before, and then 7 years before that. And so going forward, if we stick to doing bonds every 5 years, we find that sweet spot of how much debt we can take on as a city each time, we can then look back and start growing these types of programs. We started with a smaller number this time to ensure we get it right, instead of just expending a large sum of money and then it not going to the best places. But specifically as it relates to it, Billy could talk more about the project, the programs and the projects themselves.
Sure. So I recall in our conversations that I don't know that we use the term smart, let's say smart affordable housing, I think that's what you referred to. What we did talk about was innovative, right fit type of housing. And I want to acknowledge Chris Keith, developer, doing a lot of good stuff, So what affordable housing developers like Inner City Community Development Corporation, what we realize is that a single family detached 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, 1-car garage, that's great, that does not fit everybody. That does not fit everybody. And particularly in the case where, as was acknowledged on the council and the task force, land is a finite resource. You cannot create more, so you have to learn to do more with less, which means more dense housing options that address particular needs. I often give this example. My mother still lives in the house I grew up in. Well, it's too much for her. It's too much for her. And I'm trying to take care of my own house. I can't even help her take care of her house. She needs to be an owner, because she'll say, son, well, where do you expect me to go? You expect me to go pay $1,800 a month, for 700 square foot? I said, no, don't do that. But there needs to be options that are fit for, a person that's 70 years old and lives by themselves. They're not trying to cut no yard, cut bushes and trim trees. They're not trying to do that. And so you can just imagine, if we have the density, we can come up with a number of options, both rental and ownership, that are fit for people, where they can be there a long time, if that makes sense.
I just want to chime in. When you talk about affordable, and that's a miss, because affordable is a word that people don't understand. It might be affordable for you, but not affordable for me.
Right.
And that's something that we as the city of Dallas, we look at as housing. What is affordable for the person? And how do we fill that gap? Is that with infrastructure, with extra money or whatever? You got to fill the gap, because it's not always affordable. And I just want to make sure that people realize affordable is two different things.
Correct.
I'm gonna let Dr. Woody weigh in on the homelessness part of the question.
Good evening to everyone. My name is David Woody. I'm the president and CEO of the Bridge Homeless Recovery Center. Proposition I talks about a couple of things in terms of the bridge. Again, homelessness is seen. People are seeing more and more homeless individuals on the streets. And again, the way to end homelessness, obviously, is to have a home. We heard about how the city is behind in terms of affordable housing, workforce housing. In addition, especially since the pandemic, we've seen a number of individuals, especially in our community, who have succumbed to issues related to health, mental health, substance abuse. We have seen folks who have lost jobs. We have seen folks who can no longer pay the rent that were paying 3 years ago, because the landlord has made a decision to increase the rent. What we are seeing at the bridge, this week, we have seen nearly 700 folks a day on our campus to craft an exit strategy from homelessness. Again, our organization cannot do it by itself. Parkland Hospital has a clinic on our campus. MetroCare Services has a clinic on our campus. We serve 3 hot meals a day. We have a kennel for folks who would have a companion canine and otherwise would not come off the street. We also, with every guest, create a care and housing plan. What's that exit strategy? And what is the housing solution that you wish to commit to? And how can we help you put together the skills internally that will allow you to sustain that housing? The bridge has been in its location. We will celebrate 16 years next month. And the bridge infrastructure is owned by the city of Dallas. It is the city of Dallas asset, 4 acres. There has been a number of deferred maintenance issues. So the first 2 pieces are to, number 1, do some infrastructure work. We need upgrades in terms of HVAC systems, okay? We need upgrades in terms of how it is that we care for our buildings, okay? If the power goes out, I've got 700 people, and it's their home, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna get them fed, et cetera, et cetera? So we need a generator. That probably should have been part of the package 16 years ago. That's people's home. And so those are the first two elements. The second issue is this. There is not enough night shelter within our entire homeless response system, period. Okay? That is why, one of the reasons why you will see so many individuals on the street, at an exit, under a bridge, et cetera, okay? We sleep on our campus just right around 400 folks at night. So if you just do the math, if I'm seeing 700 people a day, and I've only got 400 spots at night, I've got about 300 folks who I have to ask to exit our campus. We may have tried to connect with the Salvation Army, Austin Street Center, Dallas Life. They're full. And so my idea, so what we did, we said, well, I want to do more. Let's expand it. We'll do overflow. Okay? So tonight I'll probably have 60 people in overflow. Okay? I know that those beds are taken in nooks and crannies, on the floor, whatever, because folks are looking for safety and shelter. And so we want to expand night shelter. I want to do some renovations to our pavilion. That's our largest respite space where we're sleeping 150 folks a night. I would like to expand it by 100. Okay? I already know I got 60 there. That's another 40. That's a help. That's not enough. But without resources from the bond package, I know I've got 400 folks probably who need night shelter at night, and that's what the community is concerned about.
Peace to everybody in the room. My concern is Proposition F, Cop City. So we're understanding about the need for public safety, but I think with everybody in the room, and I'm against it, I think everybody in the room really needs to understand what Cop City is, because it has, Cop City, or the proposed compound for the police that are going to be on UNT, that came after the George Floyd uprising. So I really want people to really understand that, yes, we need police, no, yes, we need fire stations, and everything that Mr. Munn said is very important. But my question is, why choose a predominantly African-American community, brown and black people? If you look, Cop City is in 68 other places, even in Alaska. So to me, when you ask why, and I will be voting against that, is that just like what this gentleman just said, that money that could be spent from Cop City could be going to those people that you need. See, we really need to understand, and people can come in and they can try to sugarcoat everything, but we who really have boots on the ground, and I'm being very strategic and not trying to be disrespectful to the people that are in charge, because y'all came in and y'all put this together. We need to understand this is surveillance again in our community. They can come in and they can say, oh, we need this and we need that. But if you really study what Cop City is, you can understand that they had one in Atlanta. People that really stood up for that, people died to keep Cop City from coming in their community. And those activists that fought against Cop City, they got RICO charges. 60 other states in the United States of America have Cop Cities. So we really need to understand, is my question again, why choose Oak Cliff? Why choose South Oak Cliff? That money that they got for 90 million or whatever, it could go to what this man said right here. We have people sleeping up under trees. We have people sleeping up under bridges. But yet you're going to house and fund police officers who are trained in the same way that Israeli police are trained. And they're talking, when you talk about international police, you need to understand who's coming into our community. See, so do your research. Understand what Cop City really is. Understand it. And I would ask again, why choose South Oak Cliff for this compound? You know what I'm saying? That very money that this gentleman talked about. And I see people sleeping at the bridge. I understand what that's going on. I understand about housing and homelessness. But again, you're willing, this bond package is willing to house police but not give this man this money that he needs for the homeless. All power to the people.
Let me just say one thing to my friend on the based on where you started, about when the plans for this started, it did start before 2020. So
Right.
this is something that's been started in 2019.
That's right.
As far as this, and the other thing is to say that the current Dallas Police Training Facility is in Southern Dallas already.
Right.
It's been in a temporary facility that the police moved to in 1990
Yes, I
as a
understand.
temporary facility. And so for 34 years, they've been in a strip mall in
Right.
Southern Dallas. It's not had upgrades. So that's just the only other thing I add.
But it's still
today.
surveillance, Brother Sean,
I
that's what I'm saying. It's still
I just
surveillance
want
for
to
the
add the
community.
facts. Those facts.
You know, passions around this issue are strong. I would argue,
It's not passion, it's just facts, brother.
not really, I would argue.
It's not really?
This one's I would argue honestly that the way to change things is change the way police are trained. In this country, police are still trained, in my opinion, in a too militaristic way. And they should be trained with current techniques on community policing, on how to de-escalate situations. De-escalation is a major initiative of good policing, 21st century policing. As far as being, you know, where it is located, I mean, we took the initiative because the current academy is very disrespectful to anybody who's trying to learn to be a police officer. And the fact is that taxpayers are taking on a fairly modest part of this whole package. Most of the money's going to be raised privately. The state has put $20 million into it. Communities Foundation of Texas has put $10 million in, and the city's asking for 50. I believe if you believe that nothing can change, then vote against it. I believe very strongly that better policing, I talked about one of the techniques. I don't use buzzwords like compound and cop city because it's pejorative. Police officers are, most of them want to do a good job. Those who don't are often suffering from mental illness of some kind. And so, you know, we came forward with a number of other folks to try to raise awareness that police should be trained differently in this town. And it can be done. And I think we can be a model nationally, teaming up with the university, particularly a university that is the only university of its kind in this area. We are hyper-local. Most of our students, we're majority minority. We serve the Dallas area, and 95% of our students come from Dallas and the surrounding community. There's nothing else like us. And we send students, when I first got there, we graduated 475, we graduated 1,100 now. And they're going out, and almost all of them first generation, almost all of them from high poverty households. So, I mean, democracy is all about debate and differences of opinion. You and I obviously on different sides on this. I believe things can change. And I think you can change by having better training. We're already doing it. I don't want to dominate the time, but we're doing a lot of things that are different at UNT Dallas, that are community oriented.
I love the fact of the housing and.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Okay, this is different. Okay, you know, with the housing, and I'm on the work groups, but I haven't heard the answer to we're recycling people. Because what we do see is those that are homeless, they continue to be homeless. So what I see is that you have your 60 and 70-year-old people who are homeless, and you put them in rapid rehousing. Why is it not more funding for permanent supportive housing?
I'm thinking, glad you asked that question. In my district, it's not in my district right now, it's in District 3. We bought an old hotel. And when we bought this hotel, everybody said, why do you buy a hotel and we're gonna make it a homeless shelter? It's not a homeless shelter. It's a training to re-educate. Homeless right now is very important to caseworkers. People don't understand caseworkers. Like I said, I came from a project. And you know about a caseworker work 24/7. And if that person who lived in that shelter is drug addict, alcoholic, whatever, they gotta have a 24-hour person they can pick up on and talk to. And that's why the one on Independent, which is going to be in District 3 now, we want to put all the casework there to make sure that person go back into society. It might take a month, a year, 2 years, 3 years. They're not going to be ready until they actually have all the equipment to succeed. And that's what you got to do. We just can't go and take a homeless off the street and give them some clothes and feed them and put them back out there. It might be a whole lot of other issues there. But that's why it's very, very important that we got to wrap around those caseworkers with those homeless, and that's what we're trying to do in the city of Dallas. Now, your point is, it's in the southern part of Dallas? Yes, but where are we? We are 20% of the population, and our population is in the southern part of Dallas, so we got to protect our population to make sure they get the right type of care.
Wraparound. But what I'm saying is for those that are 60 and up, we know they're not going back to work. And if they have stayed on the streets, sleeping on concrete for a long period of time, there's going to be some form of mental health issue. So it is some programs out here that are doing permanent supportive housing instead of the rapid rehab, because we moved from the ESG, Emergency Solutions Grant, and then we're now in rapid rehousing. But to just put them even in a shelter, that's cold and all that, but we need some more programs for permanent supportive housing.
And that's the key right now. It's new to us, and I think that Sarah Grace in District 3 is a story that we are trying to change. And the question you answered us, that what we got to do as a city Dallas policymakers, we are trying to make those changes.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, as a result of, Zarin Gracie, Dallas City Council District 3. As he mentioned, I've sort of inherited two, right? I've inherited to one that's on 2929 Southampton. We also inherited the one that's on Independence. On one hand, you inherited one that may not be the best use and purpose for that facility, and those are some things we're talking about and going back to the community to talk about. On the other hand, you have one located in Independence where there's a lot of opportunity to provide that level of support. And I think what you see in many of these permanent supportive housings, for example, in District 1, Chad West, he's converting his and focusing primarily for veterans. He was a veteran, so he wanted to focus on veterans. So what you'll see as these continue to evolve are a focus on those needs. Again, I'm not necessarily in support of turning the 2929 Southampton property into permanent supportive housing, but if we were, the one I would be willing to entertain is for seniors to understand their needs as well. But there are many options that can be done and focus as we continue focusing towards the permanent supportive housing, as well as bringing in a lot of the federal and other county and neighboring cities to help us with that as well.
Just also add, I'm not sure if you're here at the beginning, but specifically what we're talking about tonight with bonds is programs are very hard to fund through a bond program because you have to have an asset that can have a 20-year life for it. So like a structure for permanent supportive housing, PSH, could work, but the programs for the functionality of them don't work with this type of instrument of long-term debt financing for a bond program. However, even with that, what we oftentimes do is utilize the funds that we get here to leverage other dollars for the programs, but programs cannot get funded through these dollars here.
Thank y'all for inviting us out, all the officials. I'm definitely not smarter than no one in this room, and probably the most person that's on the streets the most every day. But me personally, I think people have the wrong idea of a bond. And I think that bonds people want the future impact, today's impact for a 10-year bond or 5-year bond. But by the time your bond package come up, you already coupled with more problems. So by the time this bond package come out, instead of 400 people, how many you say you have a night? 300 people every night, you're gonna have 1,000 people a night. You know what I'm saying? And what I think is, a lot of this stuff on here, which, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I knew it was coming, but I don't really pay attention to most of it because I'm everyday working, but I do read and I do vote. But I think that a lot of solutions that we need to face is more today. And I don't know how you can couple the bond package, because the last bond package, we just got a road, what we on Gooch Street, Mr. Atkins?
Yep.
How long, when we were on that bond?
2017.
You see what I'm saying? We just got a road, how much you spend, $2 million?
No. We spent so much, $5 million, but the point is, but on the road, never think about bonds, we said 2017. You gotta sell the bond infrastructure. It takes a long time to sell the bond based on the capability, the capacity of the city dollars to sell those bonds. So you gotta make sure the tax rate is correct before you sell the bond, but also that street on Goose Road is number one. It was gonna be a 2-lane street, but now gonna be a 4-lane street. So we changed because of population, so they'll go and restructure and re-engineer the street. Right. So that's something, it changed. But one thing you said, where you live, when you building houses over there in 5 miles, it wasn't for the bond package. You would not be building houses over there because the infrastructure would not be there. Well, but you still need more money for the infrastructure. But that's it's a Freeman town. It's a Freeman town. Right. But remember, without infrastructure, I said it earlier, with housing, you got to have infrastructure. Over that 5 miles, when you building that, they still got bar dishes. They don't have sidewalks. That was a Freeman town. That was slave lived many years ago, old time. It takes roughly about $50 to $60 million to put all the infrastructure there in that one little area, that one little particular area. Then go back to the street you talk about on Goose Street, that 25% of my whole capacity of District 8 went into that one street. 25% of all my money over 53 square miles.
So let me tell you something. So that's what I'm saying. And not trying to.
Yeah, I know.
We do it. I think we understand. But what I'm trying to let people know is, I think a lot of this stuff is staged wrong. I think that it should be more infrastructure. But infrastructure means more housing. More housing brings a better quality of life for people. But when you go drop 90 million on the police station with no infrastructure, then your crime is still going to be going in the high rate. You're going to spend 90 million on a facility that you really can't be saying, let's invest some stuff inside the communities with infrastructure. Let's invest more in housing. Let's invest in the parks and recs to where you can utilize the services for the people that's in your district every day to where they can actually feel the impact. And then when people come in, they can say, well, in 5 years, we know we got a whole new area that's coming in for infrastructure and housing. That's just my personal opinion, not saying nothing right or wrong. But I just see on the ground, do the bond really help everyday voters when this man here paying tax dollars on the water? Yeah. I'm just saying, like, his grandkid might, would he be able to get, utilize the services from the bond? Okay. So how is it, and I'm saying this because I don't know, but it's the institutions that's going to be, hold on, let me say, is it institutions that's being monetized and utilized and able to make whatever monies are, and the people ain't really getting the feel of the bond. Okay. And I say that, but I'm using the bond money to build a house for the city. Right. Okay. But that's the stuff that's happening that we need to be able to balance today and tomorrow.
When you said school and infrastructure, there's a difference. Okay, you look at University of North Texas, since everybody's talking about the school in Cobb City, University of North Texas. Robert Petrie. Everybody probably know Robert Petrie. He been living out there, got a skyline ranch on 75-acre land. And he bought out there before there was Cumberland Trail. You know, Proline who bought it. Before there was W.O. Banks on bank all that land is sitting there without infrastructure. And we could not put a bond money for infrastructure. And only we got infrastructure right now because of ARPA fund money, because the federal government gave us some money to put streets and sewage out there. So you cannot build houses without infrastructure. So this bond package is infrastructure. You know, you see the biggest part of this bond, over $521 million, half of the bond package is for infrastructure, because we in the southern part of Dallas, we cannot build without infrastructure. We got to have infrastructure, because you're not gonna build, over here, because the infrastructure costs so much. In North Dallas, you build all day long, because the infrastructure already there. But you got to depend on infrastructure.
But you got $52 million in infrastructure, and you got $90 million in polices, and you got $345 million in parks and trails.
But
wait.
No, let me correct you. You said reading part of the number. That's just a down
just read what you
payment.
got right
That's a down payment. You know, when you said infrastructure on the police station, it's $50 million for the bond, but $50 million is not going to build that deal. You still got to give more money. We have to go to, we have to go to.
That's my point.
No, you got to give more money. Infrastructure on streets. When you build a house over there, we will put some infrastructure there, but you still got to pay for some more infrastructure. But we make it more cheaper for you because we put some infrastructure in there. So if you want to debate me and go to infrastructure, then I just want to make sure. I want to make sure you want to balance it out as a developer.
Time out, Councilman. I'm not a developer. Don't bounce me and put in that. Don't put me in that. I'm a citizen of Dallas.
Okay, you're a citizen of Dallas, but a developer also. But also the developer.
Yeah.
And you need infrastructure. And you cannot build without infrastructure.
Exactly.
You're right. So therefore, we give you the infrastructure,
So
the bond payment for you to build.
not the police.
Okay.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Okay.
Let me just make.
Okay, real quick.
It's not even about that. So I said this at the very beginning, when the city has $14 billion worth of current asset infrastructure needs. So basically, everything that we own, every city, every street, every park, every facility, every library, out of all the things that we currently own, there is $14 billion worth of needs. I got a bond task force person, some 16 now, well, it's going up every day. So I got a bond task force person here that can tell you that we just didn't land on this. There were a lot of struggles. There were a lot of infighting publicly. I got a subcommittee chair that was sitting there that could attest to that. I mean, we just didn't land on these numbers, okay? So right, but a lot of time, equity, sweat equity went into getting us to this point. But the fact is, out of $14 billion worth of, $16 billion worth of current needs, plus $18 billion worth of wants. So see, now we're talking about wants, right? Because a new street is actually not in the current needs inventory. You gotta have a current street that's in a bad, deteriorated state to get into that needs inventory.
That's the whole city. That's the whole
right.
city.
So now we're talking about wants, right? So we got billions and billions and hundreds of $1 billion worth of wants, and we got 1.25 to get it all done.
So you saying infrastructure is a want now?
No. I'm telling you, things that have never been built before is now a want because it's not a part of the current inventory needs. That 16 billion that I can identify.
Well, the $90 million ain't.
That's exactly right. That's not there. That's what I'm saying. So it's a balance of fixing the things that we have broken plus getting things that are new. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure other folks do get in on this. We're going to take 2 more questions. I want to be timely and not hold you long tonight. So let's take 2 more questions. And when we're done, everyone that I named that is here to have a conversation are going to be here after it's over as well. So I just want to make sure other folks are able to get their question in before we end.
Thank you so much for this meeting. And as we go vote, I mean, this is why I came, because layman's terms, a lot of times you go to vote. So I just want to thank you and I appreciate that.
Right.
We're here and we're ready to vote, right? And there's not a lot that we can, a lot of input at this time on what we're voting on. I'm in District 1 with Chad West, and I go to all the meetings. I called, and when we talk about, I like what you said about the infrastructure has to be there for housing or anything, any type of development. And it's interesting that the South is behind, right? You talk about North, but we have to address why is that. And I'm not sure, but it appears to me that whenever there's gentrification or the big development going on, that's where the infrastructure attention is. We talked about homelessness. The definition of homelessness is not just those on the streets. We have a lot of people who live with family members, and it's based on poverty. So and so we have a lot. And then we talk about I mean, I can go on and on, but when you talk about the bond, I started trying to get sidewalks on my street, calling Chad's office and all of that, and it was in the bond. And then line items, my street was on there. I'm jumping for joy, and now it's gone. So it's not in there. I see quite a bit. I know there's 90 million for, enforcement. And I think if we address the poverty, that addresses that. But we also have 521 million for streets and transportation. But the sidewalks, is that not included, as I understand? So the parks, I want to finish. We got the parks.
Yes.
To get to the parks, I like that walking.
Right.
Big push for bicycle lanes. I go in certain neighborhoods, and as for those who walk with strollers with their babies and those who walk with wheelchairs with because we're all aging. And you can see sidewalks, I don't have sidewalks, and you can see those ramps that are convenient for us to push our loved ones. And so bond lasts how many years before we start looking at it again? And
Every 5 years.
when will you start working on the next? Because we need to be involved sooner.
Okay, let me answer your question with sidewalks and streets. That's your council responsibility. Because number one, if you leave your street pictures and sidewalks, he can put it in the bond package and put it in there and designate it in there. If it's in the bond package, it gotta be done. So you need to talk to your city manager, your councilman on that. Yeah, but I'm just making sure, because if you go to the line and they tell you, we also have offer fund money that came from the state, from the federal government there to do sidewalk, and I also got money from DOT to put that also.
Before we go to our last question, I do want to say that to see all of the 800 items that are in the bond proposition, you can go to the Office of Bond Management and Construction on the City of Dallas website. You can also get it through to togetherfordallas.com. We have a link there. And there's also a map that outlines all of the locations of all of the items too on that. I have a copy too. So if you want to look through these 800 pages, I have that. And also I have a sample ballot as well that people can look to if they want to see. So our last question.
You just get past what she asked, when will they start the next process? But she has very.
Okay, the next process for the next month.
Yeah,
that's the question for the next.
She wants to be on the front side. That's the
You start the process now. You're starting right now, because number one, because your council members, if you got streets that you want to put on there, you start talking that right now to get those addressed, we gotta get an assessment.
Yeah, so the needs inventory list goes every day.
Because I did when the last one, before it ended, but you still have to watch these numbers being what they're line items. And I followed it, drilled down. I called, they sent me information. It was in there, in the bond actually. But then I was later told in the meeting that, oh, it was removed out of the bond and there's now a sidewalk program. Right, so I'm just saying, we as a community have to stay engaged with the people that we elect.
Give me your name, and let me check into it. No, because it's something. No, give it to me. Give it to me because it was in the bond. No, serious. It was in the bond package. It should be there. You should not remove it because it got to be there.
It's not in there.
But just give me information, okay?
But not just for me.
Last question.
Yeah, my question relates to Proposition F and the program that the gentleman was talking about from UNT, which I believe is the Right Care program. So why is the City of Dallas not investing the $50 million into infrastructure that's going to support programs like the Right Care program that are addressing mental health problems within different communities? Like, why is the city not investing those $50 million in the infrastructure that we need as a city to address these mental health issues? Because I feel like a lot of people have brought up the issues of mental health, and from what I know, they haven't been fully funded or supported from both county and the city.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I got it. Number one, the Right Care. The Right Care ad came from Senator Cornyn. Way back there, a whole lot of people don't realize. They did because in the South Central, because we have more mental health than anywhere. And we put millions and millions of dollars in the Right Care Act. It started in South Central, now it's all over the whole city of Dallas. And we got more money into the Right Care program now because in the whole city. So we did invest money there. There's a different pocket money.
So, okay, I was just gonna say also to the point of when to get involved, you know, we talked about the bond programs and there are also parts that are funded by the budget, the city budget. And the city budget conversations are about to start very soon. So as a community, we have to be looking either on the website, talking to our council members, like when they have these town halls about the budget meeting, like the people who come, you got it on, it came up, but the people who actually come and talk to the council members about it, they have a good chance of getting the things that they want in the budget. So for the things that aren't eligible for the bond, but are funded through the budget, it's important to go into those meetings as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, that we just have, beyond just this bond, we just need to be deeply engaged in our community, period.
True that.
That we need to stay active, stay engaged, connect to communities, churches, wherever you find community to deal with your issues, make sure your narrative, right, that's that narrative power that you have to have when you're out here in the streets. What's your narrative? And to be able to put and be in space. You have to be at tables, you have to show up in order to do that. So thank you for that, I would encourage that.
I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
I want to thank everybody for coming. You know, I really do. I want to thank everybody for coming. It's very important because some people just don't show up. You know, they talk a whole lot, but they don't show up. But sometimes come here, but also come downtown. Come to the city, come to the chamber and talk and express your desire, your anger. Come down there and talk to all the council members. And I challenge y'all, that's what y'all should do because you are the taxpayer. You pay for this bill. If you got a problem, come and tell us. Don't do one time, one thing here tonight. Come down to City Hall and say, hey, these are the issues, these are what we think what we need to do. And we'll listen, and that's our responsibility.
And I also think we have to not only go downtown, because a lot of people work every day. So
Right.
they
Virtual, you do
so,
virtual.
but depending on where you're working, you can't be on your phone with them. Now you're going to be unemployed. So we have to find ways in which we can engage all of our community and we can figure this out. Or we can be engaged, but I have to work, if I don't have a job that allows me and affords me to do that, how do you come to community? And if that means we need to have things in the evening, then, you know, city council can come on out in the evening to have these conversations. So let me say thank you. Thank you to Dr. Randall Bailey, to Mayor Pro Tem Atkins, and everyone who is here on tonight. They'll be here after it's over. And on behalf of Dr. Haynes, I want to thank everyone for coming out again. Now look, it's sad, this is a great turnout. It should be packed out, right? But it's a great turnout because we have to be engaged. So I hope that we encourage people to vote intelligently, vote your conscience, right? Because there are, like you said, it's a for and against. I just want people to vote how you feel you need to vote for yourself, your family, and for your future. And so thank you, Alinka, because I like the ways in which Alinka will always show up. Me and Alinka go way back. And I appreciate the ways in which she brings a particular voice into this space. Right, so I thank you all for being here. Everybody's voice is valued and valuable, and that's why we're here. So hopefully you take these voting guides and you talk to other people so that when you go and vote, you can vote intelligently. We can do what's right for our particular communities and for our future. Thank you, Dominique, showing up late, but you showed up. I appreciate it. That's my little brother, I can do that. So if you don't mind, though, we are at the church house. If you don't mind, if I can just close us out. In a word of prayer. Then if you want to have conversations, please feel free to do so. Pick up guides for maybe your neighbors. Some, you know, we have Eastern Dallas, Southern County, Northern County, and the city. Shall we go to God in prayer? God of justice, love, liberation, and hope, we thank you for this opportunity to gather in this space on tonight, this communal space where we had an opportunity to discuss, have conversations on an important infrastructure bill that is destined, that can be something that can make our communities thrive, that we no longer have death-dealing policies, but life-giving policies. And so may you give us all the commitment and the courage to speak truth to power, to stay engaged, that we may be able to use our voice to create and construct communities of justice and equity in our systems and in our institutions. Thank you for all who are here on tonight. May we all get home safely. And I pray we all have a good night's rest, that we may rise in the morning and face whatever we have in front of us in ways that can make this world a better place in which we found it. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.